This video is sponsored by nobody because Gen X doesn't trust advertising, and I respect that. Now, when someone says they're Gen X, most people think, oh, the generation nobody talks about, which is exactly how they prefer it. Trait 1. Pathological independence. The first trait of Gen X is what psychologists call self-reliance. But what everyone else calls please stop asking me for help. I genuinely don't want to be involved. If you're Gen X, your parents dropped you off at the mall in 1987 with $20 and said, "We'll pick you up when the sun goes down." That was considered supervision. Meanwhile, if you're a millennial parent today and your kid is out of sight for 45 seconds, you're checking the Ring camera, the AirTag, and wondering if you should have gone with the ankle monitor. This created a generation that doesn't ask for help, not because they're proud, but because growing up, there literally wasn't anyone to ask. Your mom was at her second job. Your dad was at his girlfriend's house pretending the divorce wasn't happening. And you were at home teaching yourself craft dinner while watching The Simpsons, which was honestly the only parenting you needed anyway. The fascinating part is Gen X turned childhood neglect into a personality trait they're actually proud of. They'll be drowning in credit card debt. Their check engine light's been on since 2009. But if you ask if they need help, they'll say, "Nah, I'm good," and then just die. Which brings us to trait 2. Trait 2, whatever. Gen X invented the word whatever as a complete communication system. You can say whatever and it means, "I disagree with you. I don't care enough to argue. This conversation is over. You're wrong, but I'm tired. And also, I need to leave because I have a dentist appointment. I'm definitely going to cancel." They grew up doing nuclear fallout drills where they hid under desks, fully aware that plywood wouldn't stop a thermonuclear warhead. This gave them the foundational belief that nothing matters, and if it does matter, you can't do anything about it. So why care? Here's the thing though, they do care. They care a lot. They're just not going to tell you because that requires vulnerability. And the last time they were vulnerable, their parents said, "Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about." So now they internalize everything and express feelings exclusively through Spotify playlists titled 3 a.m. driving music. Trait 3. Dark humor as life philosophy. Gen X will make a suicide joke at Thanksgiving dinner and then wonder why everyone's uncomfortable. They watch their parents divorce. The economy crashed 3 times. Kurt Cobain died. And basically every system failed before they turned 30. So they developed this framework where if everything's terrible, might as well joke about it. A millennial will say, "I'm struggling with my mental health," and schedule a therapy session. Gen X will say, "Well, I'm still alive, unfortunately," and then go to work. They'll tell you therapy's a scam while taking antidepressants. But ironically, the beautiful part about dark humor as a coping mechanism is it's free, which is perfect because Gen X is trapped between funding their boomer parents' retirement and their kids' college while wondering if they'll ever retire themselves. Spoiler, they won't. Trait 4. Brand loyalty Stockholm syndrome. If you drank Surge in 1997, you're legally required to get excited when someone mentions it for the rest of your life. Same with Dunkaroos, Crystal Pepsi, and those Doc Martens that destroyed your feet but made you feel like Soundgarden. Gen X will mock millennials for avocado toast, then spend $300 on eBay buying a Nintendo 64 they already owned, just to play GoldenEye for 8 minutes before remembering nostalgia isn't the same as fun. Companies figured this out and now just re-release products with retro on them, and Gen X buys them every time while claiming they're above consumerism. The funniest part? The brands they're loyal to are corporations they claim to hate. They'll say, "Don't trust the system." Man while drinking Mountain Dew, literally owned by PepsiCo, a company with a bigger GDP than Portugal. Trait 5. Technological competence without enthusiasm. Gen X can use technology perfectly fine. They just refuse to be excited about it. They'll set up your entire home network, install a VPN, show you how to torrent illegally, then ask why you need a smartphone when a flip phone works just fine. Boomers can't unmute on Zoom. Millennials ruined every social platform by being too earnest. Gen Z thinks email is for old people. Gen X learned BASIC at 12, understands tech better than anyone, but still prints emails because I need a physical copy. The real reason they don't upgrade, they bought a $3,000 gateway computer in 1999 that was obsolete in 6 months. Why buy the new iPhone when this one works? Sure, the battery dies in 40 minutes and it's running iOS 7. But that's called financial responsibility. Trait 6. Pessimistic realism. If you're excited about something, a new job, a relationship, a business idea, Gen X's immediate response is, "Yeah, that's cool, but just wait. Just wait until you realize your boss is incompetent. Your partner has terrible credit. The business needs capital you don't have. And we're all cogs in a broken machine nobody's fixing." This isn't dream crushing. Their dreams got crushed in 2008 when the housing market died, again in 2020, and probably 5 times before that. So they adopted this worldview where if you never get hopes up, you can't be disappointed. The twisted part, they're usually right. They'll say don't buy a house because the market'll crash. And it does. But being correct about terrible things doesn't make you wise. Just sad. Trait 7. Commitment issues across all domains. Gen X struggles with commitment. Whether it's relationship, careers, or just picking a streaming service. This makes sense when you remember they had the highest divorce rate of parents in American history. They watched their boomer parents promise till death do us part, then immediately remarry someone from Applebee's happy hour. So now if you're Gen X, you've been with your partner 15 years, have 2 kids, a mortgage, joint bank account, but still haven't technically defined what you are because labels are restrictive. You've had 47 jobs across 12 industries, not exploring passion. Just correctly identifying that every company saying we're like a family means a dysfunctional family about to file bankruptcy. Researchers call this fear of commitment. Gen X calls it pattern recognition. Why commit when every institution you trusted, government, corporations, marriage, the pension system, Kurt Cobain let you down? The irony is by refusing to commit to anything, they've accidentally committed to a lifestyle of perpetual non-commitment. They became so good at avoiding attachment, they're now deeply attached to avoiding attachment. Trait 8. Nostalgia for a past they claim to hate. Gen X will tell you the 90s were terrible. Then spend 3 hours on YouTube watching old commercials from 1994. Ask any Gen Xer about growing up. Yeah, it was awful. No internet, no phones, we used encyclopedias. TV was 4 channels of garbage. Parents were emotionally unavailable. Then immediately, but I miss it. Kids today don't know how good they have it. Here's what they actually miss. Gas was $1.09. You could buy a house on a barista salary. Nobody could contact you unless you were near a phone. Your embarrassing teenage years weren't documented forever. And you could just exist without optimizing everything. They don't miss the 90s because it was better. They miss being young and not understanding the economic conditions were unsustainable and would eventually destroy the climate, crash housing, and create a generation that can't afford children. But they'll never admit this. Instead, they'll share another only 90s kids remember Mimi while maxing out their credit card buying a remastered game they already own. Trait 9. Anti-authority in theory only. Gen X has deep distrust of authority, which they express by following all rules anyway but complaining about it. They grew up on Rage Against the Machine, punk rock, the general vibe of screw the system. Now they're middle management at regional insurance companies, filing TPS report, attending mandatory diversity training. Let's say your company emails saying everyone returns to office 5 days a week. A boomer says good. People are soft. A millennial organizes a petition and posts on LinkedIn about work-life balance. Gen X says absolutely nothing. Shows up every day, silently updates their resume at their desk while listening to The Offspring. This isn't because they don't care about injustice. They watched every protest movement get co-opted by corporations or crushed by government. So they learned resistance is futile, and the best you can do is keep your head down and wait for retirement. Of course, retirement's 20 years away and their 401k is down 30%, because they invested in crypto based on their nephew's advice. But that's future Gen X's problem. Trait 10. Weaponized competence. Finally, Gen X mastered what psychologists call weaponized competence, being so good at something that nobody asks you to do it again. Your Gen X coworker gets asked to make a simple PowerPoint. Do they make a simple one? No, they create an 87-slide masterpiece with custom animations, embedded video, interactive elements. Bibliography citing sources from 1987. Why? Because now every future presentation falls to them, which means they control the narrative. And nobody can criticize because they're the only one who knows PowerPoint at that level. This works everywhere. At work, become the only person who understands the legacy system from 2003. Now you have job security till you die. At home, fix something so thoroughly with such elaborate explanations, your spouse never asks you to do another chore because you're just so much better at it. This isn't laziness, this is strategic competence. Gen X figured out in a world where everyone expects you to do more with less. The only way to survive is make yourself simultaneously indispensable and too difficult to work with. The beautiful thing is it looks like helpfulness. Your manager thinks you're dedicated. Your spouse thinks you're thorough. Your parents think you're a wizard. Meanwhile, you've created a fortress of specialized knowledge protecting you from ever doing anything you don't want to do. Closing. So there you have it. 10 psychological traits of Gen X, the generation that can fix anything but won't because that requires care. If you made it this far, hit subscribe or don't, whatever. Comment which generation I should roast next. Assuming you're not too emotionally exhausted. We're all screwed anyway, but at least Gen X saw it coming.